Welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio. A little after 1 o'clock today as we are getting going. We woke up this morning, had no idea what we were going to talk about, and then you know what happens sometimes? Things just appear out of thin air. Today, that did it. The internet always gives.
It was like Christmas.
It was. I told Neal, I had a buddy text me and go, "Hey, there's 20 minutes." Thought 20.
We'll see what happens. I can make more than 20.
I don't have a lot of content today, so we'll see where this goes.
Because sometimes we wake up and I think, what in the hell are we going to talk about? Like for an hour.
I know you're not worried per se.
No, I never worry about it.
But it's happened so much that I don't even think about it. I'm like, I don't know, something will hit, just whatever. I'll get on ESPN.com and pull something out, and it's cool. So.
I just would think sometimes though.
You used to call it organic.
Yeah, well, and so I saw that and I'm like, well, free shot.
Yeah. So we'll hit a couple news and notes. We'll talk into that today, and then whatever else pops up as the show moves on. A show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. You can get their lunch special for $5.69, 2 sides, bread, 32-ounce drink. Plenty of options this weekend if you're coming into town for some festival stuff going on. But Ole Miss baseball at Texas A&M. I screwed up yesterday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the series in College Station with the
you got me yelled at, by the way.
Did I?
Yeah, because I was talking to somebody and they said, "What do you think about the baseball series?" And I said, "I don't know. Something about Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If they get to Saturday and win two, they got to be thrilled." And he's like, "Well, they don't. It's a Sunday series." I said, "No, it's not."
Well, it was. So, anyway, but if you're coming to town, check out the Oxford Exxon, hot case, plenty of barbecue, chicken, side items, dessert, and more. Maybe you save some money on fuel while you're there. You do that by downloading the Speed Pass Plus app. Take advantage of that. Earn points, save money there with all Blue Sky locations in Mississippi. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is that number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest is up to you. You can shop it around and do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. Let's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Guest will join us on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Be a great place this weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you go in Thursday to watch the Ole Miss game, you're going to be really disappointed.
You find something. Somebody's playing.
I mean, someone will play. They won't play. But there you go. You can watch those games. Be good places to hang out. Enjoy a burger. Po' boys. Great beer selection. Full bar. The whole deal at Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford and also in New Albany.
So Ole Miss soccer loses 1-0 to Duke in the round of 16 today in the NCAA tournament. Congrats to Matt Mott on a heck of a season. Duke scored in either the second or the third minute, and that was it in the game. The Blue Devils kind of controlled throughout this morning.
I watched a good bit of it as I was running. They're really good, Duke is.
They're a national power.
They're really good. Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the his sister's the goalkeeper. They had speed all over the place. They could really run. I'm going to finally admit here that I've learned to watch a lot of soccer.
Yeah, sure.
Not just kid soccer, but I watch a lot of soccer just because sometimes I like to watch it just to kind of see what it's clear that's what my son's going to play. I probably need to start learning the sport a little bit. They have great touch. They don't have any wasted touches. Duke doesn't. When the ball comes off,
they're moving.
The ball comes off a foot
with a purpose.
Okay. They have great touch. They have great pace. They stress you defensively. They really make you run. It's a basketball team that utilizes pressure and also utilizes tempo. It's a football term would be a team that truly, Ole Miss did some of this last year, uses a ton of tempo. Mm-hmm. No wasted plays. It's a pitching staff that doesn't waste a lot of 0-2s. Mm-hmm. You're going after people. Efficient. You're getting after people. They're very efficient. They're very athletic. They have great players from all over the country. They had more team speed than Ole Miss. They stressed Ole Miss, and they scored very early, third minute, I think, second minute, third minute. It was really early on a corner. A really well-placed corner kick, and then, I think a girl got a head on it and just punched it into the corner. And that was it. 1-0's going to sound like it was a close game, and Matt would tell you this. It wasn't a close game. Ole Miss had some shots in the second half where they were frantic, and sometimes frantic will create something, and that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping that frantic would create a goal that would be an equalizer.
Some chaos is good for Ole Miss.
Well, they needed some chaos, and then maybe you could hang on in an overtime period and get it to kicks. That was clearly the goal. And they did that against USC. That's probably a strategy that is difficult to replicate over and over. But you know what, man? Sweet 16 at a program like Ole Miss, and when I say that, I mean you're going against national powers, USC, Duke.
Yeah, only the second Sweet 16 ever.
Duke's, it was like their 16th Sweet 16 since they went to this format. I mean, it's silly.
Sure.
When you get to this point, and we talked about this with Matt Mott yesterday, when you get to this point that you're starting to be able to recruit kids from places like Oxford and Tupelo and Meridian to go along with the big city programs in Nashville and Dallas and Houston and St. Louis and Nashville, like Ole Miss has been able to dip into. But they've got a girl from right here in Oxford, a girl from Tupelo, a girl from Meridian that are playing at a high level against that type of competition. If you're Matt Mott, you got to be pretty damned excited about the ceiling for your program is higher than it used to be.
Yeah, this is like Duke's fourth Elite Eight in like the last 6 years or something. I mean, they've been around the block a few times here at this point. North Carolina schools are really good at soccer. Because like UNC is probably like the historically top program in the country, I think. I saw Florida State's the one seed in this tournament.
Yeah, they're way up there. I mean, like
didn't Mia Hamm go to UNC? Mm-hmm. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Mia Hamm and I were born in the same hospital, so there you go. We're tight.
Hey, I mean, sympathetic.
I know. I mean, we're like buddies right there. The announcer actually did a pretty good job. I mean, Cat's out there calling 4 soccer games today. I mean, whoa. Come on.
Can you learn names at all? Or are you just kind of...
He had very clearly done his homework.
Okay. That's impressive.
Yeah, I was impressed. Because he's flying solo on women's soccer with 8 teams playing 4 games on that day on that field, and good luck, bud. Go.
And that's moving.
And I'm going to guess he didn't have multiple camera angles to look at and stuff. I'm going to guess he was kind of...
He's just talking.
He's just kind of flying without a parachute. Just good luck. And he did a really good job, but he would tell you about where some of the kids on the Duke team came from. And these are kids coming from elite programs.
Sure.
So Ole Miss was playing the big boys today, if you will. And they held their own. I mean, if you're Matt, I'm sure you're disappointed. I'm sure you hate to see the season end.
Sure.
All those things. I'm sure you're, comforting the kids a little bit. But at some point, and I do mean today, he's going to be able to look those girls in the eye and go, we did something. Yeah. And this is something that we can build on. And the fact that, and I'm convinced of it, I've seen it. We all make jokes about, you have to go out and you sit through the soccer game. Like I sat through soccer game in the rain on Sunday. But I have this year, maybe it's because it's the COVID thing, I have this year when there's been tournaments and they've gotten to play, I have sat and watched. Carson's team will go warm up on a field 30 fields over, and so I've got an hour. And I just watch. And the quality of play at the high school level, club level with girls has increased every single year. I mean, some pretty entertaining games. There are some kids that you can tell are really good players. A girl here in town, Carissa Strum, whose parents her mom works at the university. Dad might too. I'm not positive. She's a great player. I don't know if she's decided to play college or not, but she's a very, very good high school player. And so they're starting to produce those types of players routinely all over. You watch some of the big programs, up around Memphis, the DeSotos and the South Havens and all that stuff, and Oxford and Tupelo and Madison Central, and some of those programs are starting to consistently produce good players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, D1, upper D1 kind of kids. So, yeah. Also, last night, Ole Miss baseball in a game that took a really, really, really long time, over 4 hours. They beat Arkansas State 15-12 last night. The Rebels were down 2-0 at one point. They were up 11-2 at one point. It got to 11-10 at one point. Arkansas State had an 8-run inning there in the 6th.
How many cuss words did you say?
How
many did you say and how many did you think?
The think is really high because I got really tired, and at some point I'm getting these texts going, is this the worst thing that can happen? And I said, you do not understand how irrationally angry I am right now.
Sure.
Because if it's even just the game, whatever, but I needed the Zoom. Like, I had to stay up for the Zoom last night. I had some questions. It's the only media op we're getting before the weekend. I'm like, I need this Zoom.
Because you needed to ask about certain players who had health stuff.
Yeah, I did not need to ask, what did you think of Josh Mallett's fastball last night? I didn't care. And Jesus.
I'd had to turn my video off a few times.
Well, I mean, there is a point where you're looking and going, why is this thing taking 8 minutes? Why are we on the Zoom for 8 minutes?
There's no doubt.
Point? Like,
there's no doubt.
There are 3 questions. And like, one reporter's asking like big picture questions last night. I'm like, can we not do that Friday? Can we not do that Friday?
No, that's something.
And then Mike's trying to give this really long-winded explanation, and it's okay. So
it was a Tuesday night game in May.
It looked like what those look like sometimes.
Well, they are what they are for a reason.
Ole Miss threw 9 different pitchers, including 3 that lasted less than an inning last night.
Poor Carl had a rough night.
Well, look, it's probably what Mike was probably legitimately pissed because there were guys last night that had chances to at least look. I know it's Arkansas State, but to throw the ball in the strike zone and at least give a look for more innings.
Sure.
Nobody took advantage of it last night. Maybe Jackson Kimbrell because he struggled a little bit and he had a very clean inning. Otherwise, none of those other young kids took advantage whatsoever. They looked bad last night.
There's a reason that in May they're pitching in that game.
Yeah. Like
I'm not trying to be mean.
I would like to know Mike's blood pressure because that game got to the point where he had to use Derek Diamond in the 9th inning, and in his mind's going, I did not want to throw Derek Diamond today.
No.
I mean, he didn't get Broadway up, but even in his mind, it's going, I did not want Derek Diamond.
Well, and even in that situation, Derek's probably didn't give a lot of thought to pitching that day.
Well, it's like somebody goes, hey, his velocity's a little down. I'm like, he had no adrenaline. It's Arkansas State in the 9th inning on whatever. Mike told him, throw the ball across the strike zone and get us out of here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because in the 9th, they're up like 15-11, and like Arkansas State puts 2 on and nobody out. And it's like, oh, somebody throw strikes. Ole Miss walked 7 last night, I think, something like that. Yeah, but I mean, it was some pretty rough lines all the way up and down the board from a pitching standpoint. I thought the biggest, I say loser from the standpoint of had they thrown strikes, I thought somebody who could work in a little bit is, Braden Forsythe has been completely absent from SEC play because he's walked too many guys. He throws 1 inning last night, allows 4 hits, 5 runs, and walks a guy. That probably feels like a confidence hit that I'm not sure he can overcome the rest of the way. I wonder if that almost sort of erases him a little bit.
His confidence and their confidence in him.
Well, right, yeah.
Right.
Mostly the latter, but that's true on the former as well. So, look, otherwise there's not much to take from the game whatsoever because Arkansas State's not throwing elite pitching at you. I mean, Justin Bench had a hell of a game, and I'm proud for him, but that's not necessarily anything. The big news on Justin Bench, Mike said he's completely out of injury protocol. He's 100%. The area with his SCI joint has healed, so his tailbone feels better. He's perfectly fine. Mike said that's why he played last night.
He looked like he was moving around a little better last weekend.
Yeah, he was hit. I think he was
feeling
okay.
better.
Gunner's bullpen went fine. He has had no residual stiffness whatsoever from his start. He will start on Friday night. He's fine. I thought that was important. And then I think this opens up Ole Miss a little bit for some different areas. Calvin Harris caught for the first time last night. Calvin Harris from Dubuque, Iowa. He comes in he was like the number 2 catcher in the country out of high school, but obviously they have Hayden Dunhurst.
So it might let you use Dunhurst at first base?
Well, it might let Calvin Harris play first base. You're going to leave Dunhurst back there. You're not going to move him. But Harris tore his UCL during his high school season. He's been rehabbing it the whole time. He was cleared to hit but not play in the field. Well, last night he finally got in behind the plate, caught a few innings, and Mike said that he is completely cleared protocol to at least throw in games. So that makes him an option at first base. It allows him to at least get some innings behind the plate for different reasons, midweek stuff, however you want to do that. And look, he's your next catcher, so you do have to start molding that in when Dunhurst does leave. But Hayden's back for another year, so you got a year before you got to deal with that. But anyway, that was an exciting news for Ole Miss because it does give you some options around the field that frankly they haven't had. Because Harris is that guy that I think if he got some legitimate at bats, he would actually hit for you. Everybody says, oh, he was a top-ranked catcher, so he's Hayden or he's Cooper. No, he reminds me of Nick Fortes, more of an offensive catcher, fine behind the plate, not bad by any means, but I think he could play other positions. He could hit in the middle to back middle of your lineup and be that kind of guy. So
that's why I got the mailbag question, and I thought about it at first, and I thought, I'm making this way too complicated. It was, in the next 5 years, who has the best odds of, whether it's Omaha or the Sweet 16 or the playoff. And I took the playoff to mean at the current format, it's the Final Four in football.
Sure.
And I tried to think about it for a minute, and I went, hold up, stop thinking. This is so obvious. One is baseball because they're in season, and they have the team that could, if they got the right draw, could get to Omaha this year.
Almost every year, they're at least a team that you can carve a path for to do that, yes.
And then with basketball, because I've covered this team, I covered it at Auburn, and I covered one at Ole Miss that came within a kind of a runner from going to the Sweet 16. And I covered a team at Auburn that, frankly, was just kind of mediocre the whole year and got hot in the tournament and went to the Sweet 16 and damn near went to the Elite Eight. If you just make the tournament, you're just a weekend from going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I mean, one weekend. You're one kid having 2 hot nights.
Well, it's an equivalent thing to what soccer just did.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I got to football, and I said, the answer that they want is football. And I know that. And it's the answer that would be best for our business, beyond a shadow of any doubt. If you said to us, hey, you guys can put a team in the playoff, or we'd be like, give us
every time.
Give us football every time.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
And I just was like, is it possible? Sure. But if someone comes down, if the football gods came down and said 5 years, we know the answer. Here are the money lines. You take the money line on Ole Miss not making the playoff before you took the money line on them making the playoff.
Yeah, sure.
Because to get to the Final Four, you realistically have to either win the SEC, which is something Ole Miss hasn't done in the modern era, or you have to be 11-1 with the only loss being a super close, narrow loss at the team that went 13-0.
Sure, yeah.
That's it. Well, that's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, sure.
It's a much different path.
Yeah. We will talk some stadium attendance and more as the show rolls on. First, tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
We are also brought to you. Sorry, I had a little glitch here. We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, remember Grenada Nissan right off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well at GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Also brought to you by Lamons Fine Jewelry. Lamons is at 1126 North Lamar Boulevard in Oxford, serving the Oxford area for basically 3/4 of a century. From engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewelry, watches, children's jewelry, and more, it's the gold standard in fine jewelry. Check them out at LamonsFineJewelry.com or call them at 662-234-2777. We're also brought to you by Comer Heating and Air. You want to make sure that air conditioner is working in tip-top shape. It feels great out today, but it probably won't feel great out in a few weeks. So you want to make sure that air conditioner is ready to roll. So give people at Comer a call, 662-801-1777 for all your heating and cooling needs. And we're brought to you by the College Corner. It's your one-stop Rebel Shop. 2 locations in the Jackson area. In Ridgeland, it's next to Fleet Feet. In Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's not a problem. You can visit the College Corner at collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. So whether you're tailgating in Oxford or home gating with friends and family, the College Corner has you covered for game day. They have the largest selection of Rebel gear in central Mississippi. And we're brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. They're based in Madison, Mississippi. Got clients in more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states as well. At Pinnacle, what they do is they They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and so much more. They treat investing like a commodity, and decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So get in touch with them at pintrust.com, PINNtrust.com.
Podcast is brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com. Tunes around town this weekend, Saturday night, 5 to 7, 4 different areas around the square setup. If you'd like to eat some ice cream, yogurt, or just stroll around and listen to different musical acts, there it's available for that. Also, the double-decker bus, 3 and 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. Reservations available. You can get those through Visit Oxford, visit-oxfordms.com for that. And then art vendors back out on Saturday. They were in the Wiles Bowley Alley last week. Assuming that's where they are again this week as well, right there by Visit Oxford on the square, 10 to 5, the hours for that. So plenty to do around town, even with baseball away. Again, to find a full event schedule, visit oxfordms.com/events. We're going to get Dan in a minute. I will say, you mentioned this beforehand, though. You were reminiscing a little on Cinco de Mayo. It appeared that you would. Hey, but back in the day, that was the cash cow. That was the day that was good for everybody.
Bartending in Monroe at a very, 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 very popular Mexican restaurant that had the most popular bar in town.
So the Mexican restaurant really did have the most popular bar in town.
No question.
Really?
Yeah.
And I get that's a little bit of a lack of bar, but still.
It was. I mean, there were other bars, but it wasn't the
for the
favorite.
College set.
It wasn't the favorite.
Or did you have more townies?
Both.
Really? They mixed?
They would come, the college kids would come early, and then they'd go to the late night places.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
There was a bar right across the street. It might still be there, called Sal's, that a lot of people would come to where I was, hang for a couple hours, and eat, and then they'd leave there and go to Sal's for the late night.
Okay.
Because we'd close at 1, and Sal's closed when he wanted to close.
What time was that typically?
3.
So how often would you leave your work and go to Sal's?
Saturdays.
Okay, that day. All right.
Yeah.
All right. One day a week. And that's
pretty much.
You're just like walking across the street. You're like, all right, close down. Here we go.
Yeah.
Got a little money in the pocket. Like,
yeah. I've told you this before. Very often.
Oh, yeah, y'all got to actually.
On the long shifts.
Yeah.
Super long shifts where they wanted to cut labor cost. She'd come back there, and the manager, and she'd say, if y'all clock off, you can pour a couple of pitchers of Bud or Miller Lite or whatever it was that we had. And at that point, you're like, done.
Because you're a little tired, too.
Well, you just kind of wanted to unwind a little bit. You're just cleaning at that point.
How long did that take?
Depends on the night. On a really busy night, an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah, because we had all those damn frozen machines.
And those have to be completely.
You have to completely drain them.
Yeah.
You have to let them cool, not go from being cold to being normal temperature, and then you've got to run hot water through them.
To make sure nothing sets.
Yeah, and so you're having to, it's just a pain in the ass. And so on a night where you're super busy, that was a process.
What is the...
And that pina colada machine, you'd have to run water through that.
It was worse?
Yeah, just stuff would get... Yeah.
What is the percentage of, like, margaritas on rocks versus frozen to whatever? Like, how does the typical person like their margaritas?
It was what you'd expect. I mean, the females wanted them frozen. Males didn't. So it's about half and half.
Salt, mostly, no, instead of no salt?
Yeah.
Because I'm a no-salt person.
Are you really?
Yeah, too much salt. I don't mind a little bit, but too much, and I'm out.
Yeah, we would pre-salt a lot of glasses, and then we'd have glasses that weren't salted.
Yeah, see, the pre-salt would probably be way too salty.
Not really.
You
It's just
like
lime juice and salt, and you'd stick it up.
Okay.
But you'd have to clean all that up at the end because the salt would have fallen, and there was a lot of work. And then
frankly, it's kind of a landmine.
And then you had to brasso everything, all the brass. You had to brasso it every night. And so at the end of one of those nights, when she came back there and said, if you guys will clock off, you can drink. Done.
But Cinco de Mayo was that much busier than the normal day. You had...
Yeah, I told you, there was I can't remember what year it was, but I went in at 7:30. I was always the early guy. It was Friday, and I was the early guy, and so I had to stock. And so a lot of times I would go in. Friday was the one day I didn't have any class. My assistantship didn't meet. So I had to open every single Friday, and I would go in early and do all the lime cutting and all the salt and all the stuff that I had to do, stock the beer, change out the kegs, meet the delivery trucks, all that stuff. I'd get done by about 9:30. I'd run back to my apartment, take a shower so that I didn't smell horrible when the work started at 11.
Yeah.
And on that day, there was so much prep. So I got there super early, prep, ran home, showered, got back, and I didn't get off work until it was 2-something in the morning. Cinco de Mayo. I hated to see it end because I made a fortune at that point.
Giving everybody in the world an excuse to show up there. And
oh, yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
Working the day shift and the night shift.
Yeah. I mean, I only did that a few times.
I know, but still,
So a lot of times on Fridays, my shift would end at 4 o'clock, but I'd have to restock at 4. And then if they were super busy already, I'd have to kind of hang around if they got slammed to the point that they needed a third bartender.
Oh.
And so
typically 3? It
was typically 2.
Okay.
You'd work a day shift by yourself, and then in
sure.
the evenings you'd work 2 behind that one bar, and then you'd have sometimes I'd have to go work a service bar or something.
Yeah, Ben says he feels like Cinco de Mayo is falling off. I think it's because you've gotten older. Like, I think that's an age thing.
Yeah.
At some point, like, I didn't wake up this morning and go, you know what, Cinco de Mayo, man. It's just like, we're going to go have a frozen margarita and be in bed by 6. Like, you know, like.
What I remember about nights like that is that, because on a typical night, you know, like on a Friday, someone would show up at, 5:30 and they'd get a couple of beers and they'd want chips and salsa or crap. And on Cinco de Mayo, it's like 8 o'clock. Nobody's asking for chips anymore. People are just.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're no longer a restaurant. We're a bar.
We're not just showing up.
Yeah.
Did you have more food specials on Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah. Yeah.
The 2-for-1 enchiladas or whatever.
No, it'd be like those little chimi piquito things. It's like little chimichangas.
More like bar app stuff.
Yeah.
You're not giving away the good stuff on the 2-for-1.
Well, not even that. It's just. You didn't want to present a deal where you're having bartenders having to suddenly start running food all over the restaurant.
Oh. I didn't think about you having to serve, too.
Yeah, because it just super hectic. You're looking for efficiency.
Corey says Raptor should do a celebrity bartender night, let you dust off them skills.
There's a lot of dust, Corey. Did I ever name it Cocktails and Dreams? Nope. Chad, I never thought I should open my own bar.
It's the worst good movie in the history of the world. I'm sorry. It's the
best bad movie ever.
Yeah, sorry. I got that completely mixed up. That is not the way to do that.
It is an awesome,
and as you
terrible
rewatch
movie.
it, you go, there are a lot of problems here. Like a lot of problems.
Yeah,
stuff.
You've got to separate yourself from reality.
You can't think logically about anything.
Not in that movie.
There's no point in that movie where you go, hold on.
No. Hand-raised guy had to take that day off.
The dude that wrote the script goes, I've got Tom Cruise. That's all I need. I've got Tom Cruise in 1986.
That's it.
That's a
good.
Hit.
I got Tom Cruise, so we're going to put a bar on an island.
I got Elizabeth Shue.
And I'm going to run out some girls in bikinis, and we're just going to make this work. And in fairness, it wasn't a bad plan.
And it was the 80s.
Yeah. And it was Tom Cruise, and it was girls in bathing suits.
I mean, there was lots of really bad, really offensive movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
So.
The 80s were full of offense.
Really?
Yeah. It was an offensive decade.
Well, it made me laugh, and it was a little bit playing into what we're talking about or whatever. And I don't even know how I got here, but whatever. This feels like summer show today. I was watching some video. It was like political or something. It was like 1992. I guess it was leading into the presidential race, and it was like the era of political correctness is upon us. And I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Hold our beer.
I was like, hold on. It was like somebody talking in the Capitol, and they're doing the whole deal, and I was like, okay.
Hardly.
Yeah. Not so much. Oh gosh. Yeah, best screenplay for Cocktail. I think at one point somebody at least brought up the ideal of Cocktail 2. There's nothing we've needed less than Cocktail 2.
No.
I mean.
No. I don't think you could drag me to watch that one. Yet the first one comes on, and I'm like, it depends on the mood.
In the point of it, because it's two different movies. It falls off as much as any movie even if it's bad.
Yeah.
The last 25 minutes, like when she ends up getting pregnant. Spoilers. And the whole deal, it becomes this whole
spoiler alert on Cocktail. No.
It becomes this whole different deal that instead of the first hour, it's like, okay, this is just, it's dumb, but it's fun.
Yeah.
I'll play along. It's cool.
Well, it might have been Hand Ray's guy goes, we've got to put some meaning and conflict in this movie.
It's the biggest juxtaposition on first half and second half of a movie other than Full Metal Jacket. Where for the first hour, Full Metal Jacket is the funniest thing in the world, and you go, oh, God, now you're just going to depress the shit out of me for the next hour. I'll turn it off. Full Metal Jacket, I'll get through Arlie Ermey's whole deal, and he's cussing everybody, and I'm good, and I laugh, and after that, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, no.
I don't need the Vietnam part at all.
Nope.
I'm all good. So, sorry, Ginger. I ruined that for you. Just watch the first hour and 10 minutes, and then turn it off. You're good.
Yeah, Ginger, you've had at least 3 decades. You've had opportunity.
It's the dumbest thing. I was looking up something the other day on the Titanic, and I swear to God, you do this. I Googled Titanic, and the first little thing comes up goes, Titanic, is it real? In a Google search. And I went, oh, for the love of God. Really?
Why would it not be real?
Yeah, no, I'm like, okay, sure. Anyway.
It's just a hoax?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan Wolken today, he had a column this morning. As Neal alluded to, he's going to compliment our friend of the pod, Dan. He has a job, and to be honest, he absolutely succeeded at that job today.
So I used to have this argument with people when I was in Mobile, and I'd write a column, and people would lose their minds over it, and they go, "Are you worried about it?" I'm like, no, my job as a columnist was to create discussion. Dan Wolken, his job as a columnist is to create discussion, and he did it today.
Has it gotten a lot of internet buzz? Has it done what he probably wants to?
I don't know if it trended or not or whatever, but yeah, it's gotten a lot of buzz. It's going to be the topic of talk radio all over the Southeast. Now, I don't agree with Dan, but I'm getting ready to talk about that too, and I'm going to ask you about it as well.
Sure.
JM says no Titanic spoilers, please. Yeah, cool. It's a big boat. Let's tell you that.
Yeah.
Big boat, big iceberg.
Kind of like Gilligan's Island, sort of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But his job was to write a column that people would talk about. He did it. Check. And to Dan's credit, he's been very consistent on topics like these. So check. Now, you get into the real serious the evaluation of what he wrote. For those who missed it, Dan's essential assertion is that he thinks SEC schools should require proof of vaccination for admission to SEC football games this fall.
Yeah, that's correct.
I don't know that I could disagree more strongly. And that's coming from someone who got vaccinated in large part because I feared that what he proposed would absolutely happen. And for me to potentially do my job, I would need proof of vaccination.
Yeah, I would assume it would go to media too. Yeah, sure. Under this, well, I mean, does it? Because is it the Nets? One of the NBA teams is doing vaccination requirements for attendance.
I think so.
Is it the Nets?
I think it's.
So I wonder what their media situation is. I don't know.
I would assume that if you're media covering them and you want, but I don't know that. I would assume media covering in person has to be vaccinated. So I assumed that would happen. It's one of the reasons I got vaccinated. But I'm.
So you did expect it from that standpoint.
Well, I thought it was possible, and it hasn't happened to this point. But to this point, we've not gotten any guidance at all from anyone at the SEC or Ole Miss as to what media policies will look like in September. And it's quite possible it's because they don't know yet.
Well, the SEC sets these things, and as we know in baseball right now with everything, they are not budging on Zoom-only access because of the majority of the states in the SEC footprint having rules that, at least in theory, do not allow for that. So they're making no exceptions for the states who have shifted policies to this point.
My concern is just trying to think how to say this. All right, I'll tell you how I feel about it. You tell me where I'm crazy.
Sure, yeah.
At some point with anything, people have to make decisions for themselves.
Sure.
We live in a state where if you want to be vaccinated, you've had a good 2.5 months to get vaccinated. And so if you wanted to get vaccinated, you're vaccinated.
Yeah, sure.
If you chose not to get vaccinated, for whatever reason, that's your decision. It's a decision that at this point, if you're not, as we tape this on May the 5th, if you're not vaccinated, you've probably chosen at this point either not to get vaccinated or you've not quite yet made the decision that you want to be vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever, it's fine. But if you believe, and I think Dan is one of these people that does, if you believe that the vaccines work, and for the record, I believe that the vaccines work.
Sure.
If you believe that the vaccines work, I don't know why it matters to you whether people are vaccinated or not. If you're vaccinated, and you,
he would tell you he cares about the world at large more than himself, and that.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. But we're talking about football stadiums right now.
Sure. Well, his argument is not he wants to use football as ammunition or as a catalyst or whatever positive or negative connotation you want on it, simply to raise vaccine rates.
Yes.
He wants to use that as the catalyst to raising rates inside states, inside the SEC footprint. It's really not even about football for him. It's what is something the people care about enough that if they can't do it, they would use this as a bargaining chip to get vaccinated to then be able to participate in that activity.
He wants to use SEC football as a hammer to drive the nail.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I would guess, I could be wrong, that when this comes up in a meeting, say at Ole Miss, when they're sitting down with their athletics department, I would guess that someone goes, I don't really want to go here.
I don't anticipate anything with this. I don't.
I don't either. It's number one, it's a lot to administer. How do you go about that in a stadium? Let's use Ole Miss as an example, where 62,000 people go through the turnstiles.
Sure.
How do you go about verifying 62,000 people as being vaccinated?
Because it would almost have to be done ahead of time because you don't have time, and you know what I mean? That's not something you could do literally walking. Again, I don't know what the Nets are doing, but
right.
I know the Bills are contemplating this in the NFL.
What's interesting with the Bills, with the Nets, with Ole Miss, with the SEC, with anything, okay, so let's say you do this with fans.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do this with players? Do you require your players to be vaccinated? Is that within your legal rights?
No.
Do you require the band to be vaccinated? Do you require every cheerleader, every dance team member, every security guard? Where is the cutoff on this becoming a mandate?
It definitely wouldn't go to players because you can't force that on them. I don't think.
Because there are NFL players. I promise you, there's at least one player on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, sure.
Who says, I don't know that I want to do this yet. Ole Miss has a 105-man roster. I'm going to guess there's at least one player on that roster who's like, I don't know that I want to take this shot.
Would they have and I don't know, again, we're just kind of introducing this topic here. Would they have legal precedent to force it almost like you do vaccinations to attend school?
Well, some schools are already doing that.
Once the emergency turns into a different classification. I don't think you would under emergency use.
Although Duke is.
Yeah, I know. Rutgers, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prominent schools.
And I keep waiting to see what happens when someone legally challenges this. And maybe they won't. But right now it's an emergency order. I mean, I don't know how you. Again, his job is to write a column that people will talk about. He did it. I'll slam Dan for a lot of things. I'm not going to slam him for this. I just think it's a really slippery slope.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where I look at it and I think, if you do that, you're going to have fans say, "That's it. That's the final straw. I'm not." That's the bridge I won't cross.
Well, and that's a point. I got a couple thoughts on that. We'll come right back to it in a second. First, tell you about Northeast Spark. Service people across rural communities. The Ignite package, 100 Mbps, or the Blaze, the 1 gig that powers the Clark Ford studio. Your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband, nespark.com, 662-238-3159. Network security, wireless mesh extenders, parental controls, and more. So find out if they're in your area. It's all over Oxford now. So take advantage of the best internet around, 662-238-3159.
Podcast also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're thinking about doing something this summer, thinking about traveling at the holidays, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of deals out there to be had. It's kind of a different travel market because of what we're talking about with all the COVID stuff and places reopening and some places not being completely open and all of those things. You want an expert? John is that. So give him a call, give him an email, give him some parameters and a budget, and he'll give you options you're not going to find on your own. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 just by telling John that they heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. Also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB has a commercial checking account, now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. It comes with fully interactive online banking. They can set up any local business to deposit checks from their office and not have to worry with coming to the bank daily to deposit those checks. To learn more about that, go to Live Oxford, bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. I've got a mailbag up at rebelgrove.com. It's brought to you by Whitney McNutt of Tommy Morgan Incorporated Realtors, serving you for all your real estate needs in Oxford and Tupelo. Whitney sells condos, land, commercial, and residential family homes, and you can get in touch with her at 662-567-2573 or 662-842-3844. And we're brought to you by Bain, Moss & Bowen. Bain, Moss & Bowen, based right there in Corinth, Mississippi. I've lost my mind today. Their firm practices a wider range of law, DUI defense to car wrecks to representing government entities. Bain, Moss & Bowen is the only firm in Mississippi. It's made up of a sitting state legislator, a former assistant district attorney, and a former circuit court judge. Their experience is unmatched in that regard, and you can tap into it by visiting them at 618 East Waldron Street in Corinth, or by calling them at 662-287-1620.
So, just said this a second ago. And again, I don't think this is necessarily anybody's radar. I don't think this is something for SEC fans to consider or worry about at the moment, or however you want to deem that, depending on what your vaccination situation is. But at least one company is providing this type of service. There's an app that allows you ahead of time to show your vaccination records, to get put into their system, and then have a quick and easy way to do this. Says basically some NFL teams had used this company for some different COVID screenings for them. So there is some athletic precedent that has been set with this company.
I've heard a lot of talk about Ticketmaster's going to do it. StubHub's going to do it. You're going to have to be able to document that with your account. I don't know how that works. No idea. I'm sure, like you said, people are producing apps and that kind of thing. I just don't know. I'm guessing, as we sit here on May the 5th, Ole Miss's season opens September 6th. Is that right? So we're talking, I'm doing my math, 4 months. 4 months from tomorrow, the college football season gets started for real that weekend. That's not a lot of time to plan for stuff like that. You have to communicate that here pretty quickly. One of the things that has kind of bothered me a little bit, if I'm honest, is here we are in May. And yes, schools have said things like, yeah, we're going to reopen. We're going to have class. Everything's going to be full. They've started to say things about stadiums, but they don't want to answer some of the detailed questions. There's a question. Am I going to have to produce proof of vaccine? And frankly, we're approaching the point where I don't know is not a sufficient answer. Because the answer is either yes, you do, or no, you won't.
Well, in some ways, they need to do that just for, let's let kids understand what they're dealing with one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah, just from a planning or however you want to phrase that.
And they might say, well, no one's asked us. Well, okay, you're being asked.
Sure.
What is your answer? It's kind of like people say it's trivial. I don't necessarily think it is, but I don't think it's an unfair question to ask in May if you're a college student to say in August when we come to college, are masks going to be required? I don't think that's an unfair question. And I think the answer of, well, we're going to see what's I don't think that's a sufficient answer. I think that's a cop-out. I think you know the answer. The answer is either yes, they are, which point that's going to affect some people's decisions.
Sure.
Or it's no, they're not. They're going to be voluntary. We might even encourage them. We might recommend them, but no, they're not going to be required. And you don't want to say that because you're going to get backlash. I got news for people. There is no answer out there that's not going to get backlash.
Well, yeah, 100%.
And so it is what it is.
Any question in this entire conversation.
It's one of the questions that needs to start being answered. When people ask that question, it's a fair question to ask at this point.
Does it extend to airlines at some point?
I think they're already there.
From a vaccination standpoint.
I think so. I think it's a safe question to ask. And at some point, and I think we're at that point where airlines and people are going to have to start answering this question. Are you going to require a vaccine, proof of vaccine for this? And again, I'm vaccinated, and I got vaccinated because I saw this coming. But now I'm in the group. So how do you address this with young people? So if you were to do a vaccine mandate, is it okay, but anyone under 16, because they're not eligible for a vaccine just yet, they can come to the stadium anyway, or they can't come? How does that work? There's a lot of stuff that just kind of no one even thinks about. How does that work?
And it's why I think, especially given the nature of the way private money is raised and different things like that, that I'll be a little surprised if schools touch it from an athletic event standpoint. I think it's all these questions on where does it stop, where does it begin, players, guards, concession workers, a lot of people who are volunteers, even some different things along those lines.
College students.
Yeah, how does that dictate in? And then said you're dependent on so many donations and monies and different things that typically they try to not rock boats if at all possible.
I essentially have two college students in my house. Campbell's 20, Caroline's 18. They have a lot of friends, and a few of their friends have been vaccinated, which is fine. I think this is a freedom of choice thing. But if a lot of their friends, I won't say the majority because I can't speak to that, but I could name them, I won't.
Sure.
They have friends who they're cautious. Parents are cautious. I've talked to some of the parents who are cautious. I'd like to see more data. It's a new vaccine. Odds are it's okay. Odds are it's safe.
Because it replicates enough of the other RNA or whatever it's called vaccines that we've had.
Yeah. But sometimes I think about, it was a commercial that came out in Super Bowl. I think it was the difference between pretty sure and certain. Pretty sure I got all the snakes. Well, what's the difference between that and certain? And then, I missed one.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of a difference between pretty sure and certain. I'd like to know with certainty. It's not mine, by the way. It's not my decision. If my kids came in today and said, we're going to get the vaccine, I'd say, okay. But if my kids say we don't feel great about getting the vaccine, I respect that.
Sure.
And, I'm using them as an example because they're not alone. They're representative of what's going on. So if Dan's proposal came to pass and the university says, you know what, let's collectively do this to get more of the populace vaccinated, I don't know that that's an assignment that some of these universities really want to take on.
And I don't know enough. I know he mentioned Rutgers and Notre Dame. You mentioned Duke. What's the fine print on that? Just simply students?
I don't know.
On campus? I
think it's there's a kid in Oxford who's going to University of Illinois, and I think they're requiring it.
Okay.
And I don't know how that works. I don't,
The same way that they would, again, the way they would for almost any vaccine, I assume.
And I've kind of I think if you're a 19-year-old football player who's had COVID and you quote recovered end quote, which for 19-year-old football players meant you probably had no symptoms, frankly.
Yeah.
And someone tells you, hey, you got to get this vaccine. What happens if he says, or what? Or I can't play football? I'd love to see the legality on that. Like, how does that work? What happens if an Illinois football or a Notre Dame football player says, you know what? I mean, I guess he could transfer out and just go someplace else. If he says, I don't want to get vaccinated. I don't trust it yet. What's the answer to that?
I don't know. I mean, and no one. What's interesting about that? We've seen a lot of these discussions. Nobody said a word about players at this point, have they? They haven't included that in these.
We haven't really had an opportunity to ask.
Yeah.
I mean.
But I mean, under the guise
let me rephrase that. If I were to call Keith Carter today and ask these questions, I actually think he'd answer them. Now, he might not be crazy about it, but I don't. He wouldn't blow me off.
Sure.
I don't know that we've gotten to that point where it's even a question to ask yet. It becomes a question the day that the SEC announces that you have to attend a football game this fall, you have to be vaccinated. Because now it's no longer a hypothetical. Well, your quarterback, I assume you're going to want him to attend the game.
Sure.
So does he have to be vaccinated? No, here's an exception for him. Well, then is there an exception for the cheerleader? Is there an exception for the guy in Section M? How does that work? I'm not sure and frankly, Dan didn't pretend to think all that out. Dan is two things. One, he's a columnist, and two, he is very much pro everyone getting vaccinated.
Yeah, sure.
And so he views this as a way to.
He found his lane and he ran the lane out.
Well, he knows if Nick Saban says, "Hey, look, we want y'all to come see the Tide, and come see the Tide, y'all need to get your shot."
It would help.
He knows that everybody's going to run right out to the Hueytown.
Yeah, that would increase
Civic
vaccination
Center.
rates.
No question
100%.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No question. And
Dan writing a column, like anybody writing a column, they don't have 8,000 words to play out every little scenario.
Right. No,
that's not really even a criticism.
No, he's right.
Yeah. The main point is correct.
If Dabo Sweeney and what's his face at South Carolina, Beamer.
Yeah.
If they did a PSA and ran it all over the place, hey, if y'all want to come see the Tigers and the Gamecocks play this year, you got to get vaccinated. Well, a lot of people would go get vaccinated who otherwise would not get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side, there would be a lot of people, because there have already been people who said this in the thread, who would say, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going anymore.
And that's what schools are worried about.
Sure.
As they should be. Podcast brought to you in part by Tyson Drugs and G&M Pharmacy. G&M, they're in Oxford on South Lamar, 662-236-2222. They offer delivery in the Oxford area, and they also offer MedSync to fill your prescriptions the same day each month, whether it be one delivery or one carry out there from the pharmacy. So, again, on the square in Holly Springs or on South Lamar in Oxford, 662-236-2222.
We're also brought to you by Alpha Specialties, located at 1670 Highway 80 in Pearl, Mississippi. They're your trailer-specific professional. If you want to haul it, they can call it. It's the premium trailer dealership in Mississippi. They've got Load Trail. It's the premium brand trailer, the highest quality utility, equipment dump, and gooseneck trailer being built today. They also have the Hallmark cargo trailers, which is one of the most quality cargo trailers on the market, perfect for hauling goods to markets and shows, hauling race cars, and more. They can even work with third parties to have game day trailers and concession trailers built for your high school, your middle school, whatever the case may be, as you get ready for the high school football season this fall. And also for podcast listeners, they've got spare tires and wheels starting at just $100. They've got all sorts of truck accessories, and they've got a full-service shop. So alphaofms.com or 601-932-9798. Blue Delta Jeans makes the best-fitting, most comfortable jeans in the world because they are uniquely made for you and only you. Raw denim jeans, custom fit, hand-tailored in Tupelo, Mississippi, one size fits one. at BlueDeltaJeans.com. Husbands, fathers, children, you need to know Sunday is Mother's Day, so don't wait until the very last minute to get a gift for the mother in your life. A custom pair of Blue Delta jeans is a great way to show you care and give a gift that will bring a lifetime of joy. Visit BlueDeltaJeans.com to purchase a gift card that can be redeemed in person or online, or contact the folks at Blue Delta to schedule an in-person fitting for the mom in your life. Don't forget to use the code Rebel Grove online or in person for 10% off any pair of Blue Delta jeans. And we're brought to you by The Rogue. The Rogue is your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylist hand-select pieces from top designers. Work to lifestyle to nightlife, there's the perfect something for everyone at The Rogue. All the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, Duckhead, and more at The Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or therogue.com.
So, this isn't really about golf, just kind of business in general. Have you seen anything about this golf super league thing?
I can't say that I've heard about a golf super league. I heard about a soccer super league, and that did not go over well.
So for years, maybe the Saudis have contemplated a way to take the best players in the world in golf, put them through their circuit of events, and pay them gobs of money.
Okay.
I mean, holy hell, gobs of money.
Okay.
Now they would require a schedule to be set. Golfers don't like set schedules, but it'd be, hey, you're going to play in these, you're going to play in these. The interesting thing about it is a lot of PGA Tour players kind of bashed it, knowing that they like where their bread's buttered and they're just going to chill. Mickelson was a little more measured in his comments. He knows he's 51 and probably isn't even whatever, but his point is, everybody talks about set schedules, but NFL teams have set schedules. Like we don't, we're the only sport where we really get to completely pick where we play, other than tennis.
NASCAR's got a set schedule.
Yeah, he's like, this level of money.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting though. Jay Monahan, the head of the PGA Tour,
yeah.
he had a previously scheduled meeting with some PGA Tour players in Charlotte for, Wells Fargo. They're at Quail Hollow this week. And he told them under no unspecific terms that should they participate, if this league comes to fruition and they participate in it, they will be hereby suspended and maybe expelled from the PGA Tour.
Whoa.
Yeah. Essentially told him they had to pick. It's an interesting deal. Also, the PGA Tour comes out with, I think they're calling it the Player Impact Program. It started in January, where the 10 most publicized, recognizable, however the PGA Tour is using their formula, the ones that they feel like move the needle.
Yeah.
They get pieces of like a $40 million bonus pool every year. The 10 that potentially move the needle a little bit.
I don't have a problem with that. You're incentivizing.
No, I have no problem with that because, Mickelson says here, he says, I think the fans would love it because they would see the best players play exponentially more times. Instead of 4 or 5 times, it'd be 20 times. I don't know what the final number is, but that's a big deal to go control your schedule, blah, 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 blah. This tour is already set up, headquarters in Jupiter, Florida. But reading here from ESPN.com, it says Jay Monahan met with players Tuesday night at Quail Hollow in a previously scheduled meeting in which the PGL, Premier Golf League, was part of the discussion. According to several players, Monahan made it clear that joining the PGL would mean an automatic suspension from the PGA Tour and the possibility of a permanent expulsion. According to a PGA Tour official, such an action is part of the Tour's regulations and has been approved by the players. Interesting move by the PGA Tour because I don't know if that's just, hey, we're going to nip it in the bud, or if there's a legitimate, hey, we've got to be careful, and we feel at least a little bit threatened to go that far at this point.
Well, they clearly feel threatened.
Is the best way to counter it to go, hey, I'm going to take my ball, and you're going to stay with my ball or not?
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, sure.
To just jump right in, but that's what it feels like. I mean, the NFL fought the USFL. Lost and had to give them a penny or $1. I can't remember which.
Rory says, they first contacted me back in 2014, so it's 7 years down the lines. Nothing's really changed. Maybe the source of the money's changed or people that are in charge have changed, but nothing has happened. No sponsorship deals, no media deals, no players have signed up, no manufacturers have signed up. There's been many iterations at this point. You have to go back to what happened in Europe with the European Soccer League and football. People can see it for what it is, which is a money grab. Which is fine if that's what you're playing golf for, is to make as much money as possible. Totally fine. Then go and do that if that's what makes you happy. But then goes into the issue is that from a legacy standpoint, that comes with winning majors and certain tournaments on the PGA Tour that you would then be expelling yourself from having the opportunity to do at that point. 'Cause, Rory's been pretty open about at least the last 5 to 8 years probably of I've got all the money I need. I like making money, but this is strictly about tournaments and legacies at this point. I mean, and people get mad at him because, hey, that's what this is.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Aaron Rodgers deal right now.
Mm-hmm. Then you got some golfers that go, no, I'm just cash the check every week. That's
sure.
Cash the check.
Sure.
That's what matters.
Well, I mean, I do think you probably can get to a point where you've made all you can make.
But like, Justin Thomas, a couple of these other guys, they know kind of where their bread's buttered, and it's like, no, I'm happy. I'm not upsetting any apple cart.
Sure.
I'm going to continue to make my $5 million a year or whatever it is
Sure.
and move on with my day and whatever. So, I don't know. It's just interesting they took that hard line of a stance that quickly.
And it's probably going to be effective because most guys are going to be like, you know what, this works. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Here's the irony to this is that, the PGA Tour – sure, those 10 movers and shakers, if you will, get the pub, and they're the ones people come to see. But the tour is made by the next 125. They got to fill the tournaments every week. You know what I mean? I mean, the tour actually,
sure.
They need parity outside the top 10. You need to be able to know the guy that's ranked 63rd in the world
sure.
or like whatever. So in a lot of ways, the PGA Tour even has a different format to how they succeed versus something like this where it's just, hey, this circuit of 10 or 12 guys, and you make it what it is. So I don't know. It's interesting enough. Your Thunder losing enough now?
They have flirted with disaster here in the last couple of games. They took care of business against Indiana the other night, lost by 57. Then they played Phoenix and only lost by 3. And Phoenix is really good. Like the Thunder, that's dangerous. And then last night, kind of kept coming at the Kings a little bit. Good baseball game last night. I actually watched some of it because I wanted to watch Keegan Thompson, the former Auburn star.
Oh, yeah.
He made his first major league start last night against Trevor Bauer and the Dodgers. Pitched well. Didn't stay long enough to get the win, but pitched well.
Did he?
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
Well, he got overshadowed a little bit by Mize. But yeah, he was good. I always like watching guys make their debuts, like stuff like that, because it's a big deal. I mean,
so he debuted where?
He had pitched. He had pitched before, but this was his first start.
Okay. Was it home or away?
Home.
Okay.
So you can only imagine what yesterday was like.
Trying to kill time.
Yeah. I mean, you can only imagine what a day like that's like.
Get to the clubhouse and I'd pace. I would have a really hard time sitting.
Well, because the first guy you're going to face is Mookie Betts. Yeah. The guy pitching against you is Trevor Bauer, who just won the Cy Young Award. Yeah. The Dodgers just won the World Series.
Yeah.
You're pitching at Wrigley.
Yeah.
At night. I mean, come on. You don't think
a little adrenaline going at that.
The adrenaline's pumping. The butterflies are the size of
Yeah, you're on the mound. You're going, please God, just throw it somewhere around the plate for this first pitch.
Yeah.
Let me get into this and.
Well, I mean, the first guy's Betts hits a double down the line.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I guess he was a 1-1 count, and then he walked the guy. Then he got a double play. Bodie made a really good play and got out of it. It was a really interesting game because Bauer did not have any command and yet pitched his ass off. Only gave up 1 run, into the 6th before he had no command. He never walks anybody, and he was walking people. You could tell he couldn't feel the baseball.
What was the final score? The first game yesterday?
7-1, and then the game last night was 1-1 after 7. So they did 2 7-inning games for doubleheaders now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Even at the major league level.
I didn't realize
I know
that.
It. And the Dodgers scored 2 in the top of the 8th, and then the Cubs got 2 in the bottom of the 8th, and then the Cubs won in the 9th. It was entertaining just from a pitching standpoint.
Cubs had a good day.
Watching a kid go against Trevor Bauer and the Dodgers and all that stuff. I just always think about what that must be like for his parents on a day like that. Just had to be just.
You taking the Padres in that division now?
Starting to think about it. Dodgers are not playing particularly well.
I mean, May's out now.
They don't look like a championship
they're
team.
Banged up.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't field the ball well.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Because that's not fixable. You are what you are defensively.
Well, and look, Once you win a World Series,
you're fat and happy for a minute.
Yeah, you are, and you just don't have the same hunger.
Mm-hmm.
You play differently,
especially in May.
Well, no one's repeated since the Yankees back in, was that 01, 02, something like that?
99, 2000.
No one's repeated.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the Diamondbacks won in 01.
Yeah. And I don't
Yankees won in 02. We know 03. And then Red Sox 04.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's repeated since then.
Yeah, so 99, 2000.
It's just hard to do it.
And the Yankees had won 3 in a row at that
The
point.
Yankees
they won
3 in a row.
99, 2000.
I just can't even imagine a team trying to do that now. But yeah, you watch the Dodgers play, and they don't. I mean, look, I get that it's early May, and there's a lot of baseball left, but they don't look like a championship team.
It's May 5th, so yes. It's easy, though, too. The team that you go, are we sure, is the Atlanta Braves. They look bad. They look really, really bad.
So it's two things. One, I've seen them against the Cubs some, and they looked pretty good against the Cubs.
Okay,
and then they're super talented.
They are.
And so I just watch their talent and think, every time I watch them, I think they're going to figure it out.
But the pitching staff can get a little funky.
It's.
I know the whole 3-outcome baseball thing, but the Braves especially, they can strike out a ton.
Well, and they're approaching that point where you have to, as an organization, and I think they're there. This trade deadline, they've got to do something. They're turning into the Boston Celtics a little bit. You probably don't watch enough NBA to know what I'm talking about.
No.
So the Celtics had this accumulation of picks in their arsenal for so long. And you kept waiting for the Celtics to go make the big splashy deal. Dip into that arsenal and add the big piece, Kawhi or whoever, to come in and get you over the top and get a ring, get a trophy. And they never did it. And now the Celtics are just kind of this middling team that's got this superstar in Jason Tatum and then some dudes. And Gordon Hayward's not there anymore, and he's gone to Charlotte, and he's playing pretty well. And the decision to let him go kind of looks bad now. And they've got Walker, who's just kind of a player now. He's no longer the great player that he was in Charlotte. He's just kind of a player. Your window closes, and you watch Atlanta, and you've got Freddie Freeman, and you've got Ronald Acuna, and you've got all these guys, and you think, maybe you should have done that Chris Bryant deal when you could have. Yeah, it was going to cost you some guys, and they didn't want to trade Christian Pash or whatever, however you say his name. But maybe you should have, and that's kind of where you get a little bit. And
you don't want to obliterate your farm system, but at the end of the day, those guys aren't doing anything for you. They're still just sitting over there. When you're in your window, I mean, they're currency. Maybe on the field and maybe not. Maybe on the trading block. I don't know.
Carson always says this about the Cubs, and sometimes I think he's just being a kid, and sometimes I think, maybe he's right, kind of smart. You got these dudes. You've got a window right now. You know the window's right now. Go do it. Go.
Well, now the Braves thought, and maybe they're still correct, that their window really is just now even open.
And it's certainly possible. But Freeman's not getting any younger. He's a free agent at the end of the season. You don't know what's going to happen from an injury standpoint with guys. Maybe you should have gone. Maybe you should have gone and gotten Trevor Bauer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should have anteed up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the time. Maybe you should have added the ace. Maybe when you found out the Cubs were shopping Yu Darvish, you should have said, hand raised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, does it make a ton of sense economically? No. But are you trying to get a parade or not?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what happens a little bit with sports. And that would be my thing with the Braves a little bit, is I would watch the Braves. If I'm a Braves fan today, I'm probably not worried yet, but that's starting to creep into the back of my mind a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because I'll tell you this, when you're a fan of a team, and look, I can get all pissy about the Cubs or whatnot, but I've got 2016 now. And you can live off that for a little bit. And if you're a Braves fan and you win a World Series this year, and then if you had to trade prospects to win a World Series this year, even if it burns you in 3 years, do you give a shit?
Time.
No, you want the trophy. You want Freddie Freeman to walk around Truist Park with the big trophy in his hands. And if he doesn't do it, and you keep all these prospects and you're just a solid team for 10 years.
Does nothing.
I don't know. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
I mean, when I ask you about the Saints, Even when they were losing all these games, like, yeah, but we got that Super Bowl. Remember the one?
And that eventually burned out.
It does.
By the end of the era, you're going, okay, they should have won more. This is stupid.
Sure, but you still have the one.
I mean, it's a hell of a lot more palatable than not having one.
Well, no, it's night and day.
Yeah, right. You can always come back and go, hey, here's the argument, here's the ring.
Well, it's the Theo Epstein. Did he really want to trade for Aroldis Chapman? Not really. Did he think Aroldis Chapman was a bad guy? Yeah. Did he really want to trade Gleyber Torres at that point, who was one of his favorites? No. Was it worth it? Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point that's kind of where you are, and that's where Atlanta, where are they in the standings? I know we're
fourth.
We're up against the end, but how many games back are they?
I got it up. They're 13 and 16. They're only 1.5 back because the division's bad.
Your division's bad, so here you are.
The Phillies are 15 and 15, leading the way.
So if I'm a Braves fan, I'm watching this July. There are players that are going to be on the market, and they're going to cost you. It's probably now time to pay that price.
Yeah, they're a game and a half out of first and a half a game ahead of last.
Now's probably the time to pay that price.
Yeah.
You know, Chris Bryant, yet again. And maybe he is a rental. In fact, he probably is a rental.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris Bryant in the middle of that lineup with Acuna and Freeman,
it's a whole
different animal.
Yeah, sure.
Because right now you're playing inconsistent dudes.
You are. And Dansby's been bad, and different guys have been really bad, and it's.
So Javi Baez, for example, if the Cubs shop him, should you do that? Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah. Baseball again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This weekend in College Station against Texas A&M. Ole Miss up to number 9 in the RPI, 13 and 8 in the SEC. The Aggies 5 and 16 in the SEC. It's been a rough go for the Maroon men in College Station. So coverage of that all weekend, some other stuff going on as well, and we will talk to you again soon here on the show. Thanks for providing the stream. Take care. Have a good day. Talk to you then.